Agricultural Technologies, or PAT, is leading in the ag tech space. However, it is failing to lead in one pertinent area of the business: diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And that is why we are here to help. Hi everyone, my name is Iman Chnu, and I'm here with my team, Leah, Camille, Chrysanta, and Hana. To start, we'll give an introduction. We'll then go into our strategy before considering the impact and implementation of our strategy, and to conclude, we will end with some key takeaways. Let's get started. So considering the key case facts, we saw that there was an 18% higher likelihood of employees leaving within the first 2 years of working at the company. For PAT, this shows that there is a low employee retention rate among marginalized employees. This leads us to our key question: how can PAT retain diverse talent? Which leads us to our solution: by prioritizing career growth and highlighting marginalized communities. How did we come to this conclusion? Here's our decision matrix based on the criteria composed of the 6 components of the purpose-driven strategy. We considered addressing lack of advancement opportunities and addressing low pay because these were cited by Pew Research Group as the 2 top factors as to why employees leave companies in the tech space. As you can see, our strategy creates a long-term sustainable growth efforts in the DEI space. And this is because of this concept: psychological safety. This is the belief that one can speak up without a risk of punishment, and it's the #1 factor to powerful, high-performing teams. It also creates open and safe spaces for dialogue, which 46% of PAT employees currently believe that they do not have. Therefore, addressing just low pay is not going to address the root cause of the problem, which is workplace culture, whereas our solution will. We want to reiterate that 63% of tech employees left their jobs in 2021 due to no opportunities for advancement, which propels our strategy. Introducing diverse talent management, where we'll establish executive commitment, create professional development programs, and develop ERGs.
The first part of our strategy will be to establish executive commitment. So this will be DEI training sessions and diversity inclusion training for leaders, as well as introducing them to the issues that arise for underrepresented groups historically in the agricultural technology space. So we noticed a big difference in companies that had diversity leadership training and those that didn't, specifically with how employees feel valued and included within teams and leaders. So in those companies that had diversity training leadership, 63% of employees said that the team ensured that everyone felt safe and heard. 74% said it made it easier for them to propose risky and novel ideas, and 82% of them said that their team helped to empower them and make decisions. So there's a big difference between companies that have this leadership training and companies that don't, and how employees feel about their value, which is why this is such an important and effective tool. So inclusive leadership coaching will include required monthly DEI coaching sessions and diversity inclusion training for executives and senior management. And this all leads to a top-down approach where the leaders are the pioneers in creating this cultural shift that will lead to an inclusive overall company-wide environment, and this will lead to happier and engaged employees. As well, this will also lead to career growth as there will be more open dialogue between leaders and those lower-level employees, as well as leaders fully valuing the full potential of candidates when considering them for promotional opportunities.
The second part of this strategy is to focus on professional development programs targeting underrepresented employees. This entails promoting leadership workshops as well as mentorship programs designed to boost career advancement. A study conducted by the Boston Consulting Group found that members of underrepresented groups within organizations progressed at a slower pace than their colleagues, with the 2 main causes being a lack of or a weak sense of belonging, as well as difficulty navigating the professional space. Naturally, with a lack of opportunities for advancement, employees will be prompted to leave the organization in search of better opportunities. Therefore, to address this issue, PAT should create professional development programs with different identities in mind. This can take the form of 3 different initiatives, with the first one being peer-to-peer mentorships, which will provide networking opportunities within the organization. The second one will be technical skill workshops, which will boost employees' confidence in their skills and the value that they bring to the organization. And last but not least will be management and leadership training, which will take the form of workshops that will provide strategies to underrepresented groups to navigate challenges that are unique to them in the professional space. For example, a workshop could be about asserting yourself in a meeting, coming from the standpoint of somebody who comes from a cultural background that discourages speaking up. This recommendation will boost confidence in employees, nurture diverse talent, enhance networks, and in the end, promote higher employee engagement and reduce employee turnover.
Now wrapping up our strategy, let's take a look at employee resource groups, which provide a safe space leading to community growth. Taking a look at the ERG process, we start with appointing sponsors, where we establish executive sponsors to help leadership mentor ERG leaders. Then we lead to formation, where we develop our ERGs and its goals, leading to, third, leadership encouragement, where ERGs are up and running, creating that safe space for open dialogue, leading to 4, where ERGs can have community outings and service events, which leads to 5, linking accountability, where ERGs can have a safe space to voice their informed and diverse opinions to executives, leading to a bottom-up approach, holding executives accountable. Directly tying this to PAT, there could be a women's ag tech networking, where for a community outing, they could do group yoga or meditation, and for a service event, they can volunteer at a local women's shelter. And they can discuss issues and possible solutions to better support the femme-identifying community at PAT. So how does this connect to career growth? Well, leadership encouragement helps encourage employees to benefit from increased confidence and opportunities to rise in the company. This also leads to an increase in professional development through departmental crossover. And with that being said, ERGs lead to improved onboarding practices, fostering innovation, an increase in productivity and sales, and it promotes high employee engagement. With that being said, workplace belonging leads to a 56% increase in job performance, a 50% decrease in turnover risk, and a 75% decrease in employee sick days. And with ERGs comes high employee engagement, which we can see a 10 times more likely increase in sales and profit. With that being said, our 3 recommendations help fuel our purpose-driven strategy. Now I'll hand it over to Hong to discuss impact.
Thank you. So first I'll kick things off by talking about some of our KPIs. The first one being to increase our overall retention rate by 3%. Our second KPI is to increase employee satisfaction to at least 80%. Furthermore, we want to increase employee productivity, our applicant pool diversity and recruitment, and continue to improve our psychological safety at PAT. So furthermore, in order to track all of these initiatives, we've developed 2 systems for metrics. The first one being a bias reporting system. This is a form that's continuously open to PAT employees, and it's a safe space in which they can report any biases that they encounter, along with any misconduct that occurs in the workplace, to then be mitigated by our HR team. Our second is a climate survey that's focused on measuring the effectiveness of our DE&I initiatives and understanding employee sentiment towards our workplace culture. This will be open quarterly. Our ultimate goal here is to establish a continuous feedback loop. And in order to do this, we will publish 2 different annual reports. The first one being an internal HR report. This will detail statistics regarding workplace misconduct and steps that were taken to mitigate it. The second report is an external DE&I report, which discusses our DE&I initiatives, their effectiveness, and employee sentiment towards workplace culture. Ultimately, our goal here is to promote a culture of transparency and openness. By encouraging accountability, this will deter employees from engaging in harmful behaviors. Furthermore, in terms of our stakeholder analysis, we've determined that we're going to monitor our clients closely, keep our senior management satisfied, keep our employees informed with all the new initiatives and programs that we're keeping in place, and manage our executive sponsors and advisors closely as they're an integral part of our plan. In terms of risks and mitigation, our first risk is lack of initiative from upper management. This is going to be mitigated through actively seeking out advice and feedback from these managers and implementing that in our systems. Our second risk is ERGs not being seen as well integrated at PAT. This will be mitigated by having managers promote ERGs to their teams and encourage and reward participation. Our third risk is limited funding for DE&I initiatives. This will be mitigated through dedicating a time in Q1 of every year to allocating a specific budget towards our DE&I initiative. In terms of implementation, the vast majority of our development will take place in the first 3 quarters of our first year, which will be soon followed by our implementation and validation plans, which continue through our second year. Our approach towards finance was started by first breaking down the cost of our strategy. On the right-hand side, we see an itemized list of every cost involved, which comes up to a grand total of $284,000 for our first 2 years. In terms of our cost-benefit analysis, we took into account there is an industry average retention rate in SaaS of 87%, with most firms seeking a goal retention rate of 97%, hence our goal of a 3% increase. On the right-hand side here, we see 3 different scenarios, a 1%, 3%, and 5% increase, and how that affects our net benefit. If we key in on Pat's program, this will garner a 17% drop in hiring costs and ultimately bring in a $1.1 million net benefit. Ultimately, Pat has a demonstrated need for clearer career growth pathways for marginalized employees. Through our opportunity in developing the Diverse Talent Management Initiative, we will be able to drive home creating clear opportunities and ultimately garner sustainable business growth and increase retention rates year over year. We will now be open to any questions.
Thank you. We'll now begin the 8-minute Q&A session.
Firstly, well done. Very well organized, very clean. I like the way you approached the whole presentation. Can you go back to the slide that had the KPIs? I have a
Yeah.
question on that one. So the way I'm reading this is these are your target KPIs that you want to achieve as a result of implementing the recommendations that you're recommending. Have you thought about a timeline on how long it's going to take to achieve these? So for example, if I want to get to 80% or higher employee satisfaction, how long do you think that's going to take? Have you done any analysis on that? Is it going to be all realized in first year, multiple years? How do you think about that?
We expect most of our KPIs to be realized after our second year.
Okay.
So if I go back to the implementation slide. So through year 2, all of the programs will have ran for a full year, and we think that that will be a good time to have a good enough, robust pool of data to conduct our analysis from and assess whether we've reached those KPIs effectively.
Got it. And if I recall, there was a recommendation on a system to capture those KPIs, is that?
Yeah. We have 2 metrics in place, bias reporting and climate surveys.
Okay, and your recommendation is that these are where we're going to be tracking those KPIs
That's
and, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Really appreciated everything you guys laid out. One question I'd like to double click on a little bit earlier. So when you laid out some of the risks, you did talk about engagement from middle management, which resonated, especially in the employee survey. I saw that over half of our leaders don't really have an issue. So what sort of strategies are you guys recommending we employ to help build buy-in amongst our senior leaders, just to even kickstart all of these efforts?
Yeah, I can answer that question. So what we want to do is talk to leaders before this program is even implemented and actively solicit their input, either before and during the program, to make sure that we hear from them how they feel that it is working. Because a lot of times what we can see is leaders maybe not seeing the potential for the program themselves and not being able to be a part of the creation and the creation further on down the road. So we really want to have that input from leaders, and that'll help establish more initiative from them and keep them in the loop, as well as our leadership training sessions.
Just a quick follow-up to that, with again over half saying there's no issue, what would you do if the input they share with you is, we're not concerned, we shouldn't be investing in this?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, especially because the problem is with the leadership right now. If they don't agree, obviously that creates a big threat to the strategy. And I think what we really want to hone in on is with the leadership coaching sessions, which is the first part of our strategy. So I want to just give an overview again. That establishing executive commitment, the way your question is directly related to how do we get them committed, and I think based on the research that we found and based on the way we want to implement the coaching sessions, it's going to be required for executives and open to everyone else, because we talked about this very extensively, and basically our idea was that if we make it to open to everyone else, it's not creating this exclusive environment where you're a leader, you're not a leader, it's we're working in this together, but making it required for executives ensures that that executive commitment is actually being taken account of. Does that answer your question?
Fantastic, thank you. I might build on that question and take another tact, which is, you had a slide where you talked about kind of key stakeholders, and I was curious, yes, this one right here, was curious about the placement of clients in, I'm gonna assume this means low power and low interest. Can you talk a little bit about sort of assumptions that you made from the case, for instance, about the interest that Pat's clients might have in this kind of work?
Yeah, so basically, the reason why we put that there is because that's something that we would want to monitor. Our DEI efforts are going to directly influence the parties that are within the company, such as the senior management, the executives and sponsors that are helping with the ERGs, and the employees. That is a very interesting point, a notable point actually, because obviously when you are engaging in these DE&I efforts as a company, it's increasing your stakeholder value. That's why we refer back to our purpose-driven strategy so much, because implementing this is going to impact the clients in a positive way. When you are a company that's known for a positive brand reputation, when you're known for corporate social responsibility, you are more attractive to your stakeholders. Your sales and innovation will go up because of that. So it's all an intersecting play, like all the parties are playing in an intersected fashion. Does that answer your question? Awesome.
Yes, thanks. Great presentation. Want to ask, back with the bias reporting and psychological safety that you talked about, a lot of times with bias reporting being introduced into the workplace, it drives up complaints and concerns that are raised. Wondering how you are going to talk with senior leadership about the likely increase of it and how they should look at that increase and assess it.
Yeah, I can speak to this. So psychological safety, for one, I think everyone understands the importance of that. That's the idea that it's true not only in business culture, but even in a classroom. When I'm sitting in a classroom and I feel like I can raise my hand, I can ask a question to a teacher, that's establishing that sense of psychological safety. When we're considering it with our KPIs and creating that bias reporting system, the way we want to ensure it's going to work is, I think it works in conjunction. So when the executive leaders create a space where these employees can speak up in meetings, but also creating a space where even if you are an entry level as a marginalized employee, you're able to get that spot at the table, you're able to you're able to speak, lead those client meetings. That's going to all help create that psychological safety. And when it comes to the bias reporting system, because it's anonymous, and it's going to be done in a continuous feedback loop, as Hannah talked about, we are confident that it's going to help with the DEI efforts of increasing retention rates.
And I think in addition to that too, since you want to emphasize the importance of psychological safety, this is definitely something that's going to be communicated to managers. So should they expect an uptick in HR complaints, obviously by implementing a bias reporting system, that's definitely something that's daunting to see when you have never seen something like that before. But when we take into account how important establishing psychological safety and inclusiveness and a sense of belongingness in the workplace, I think it can kind of be seen as a really positive opportunity to create growth and change within their teams to ultimately become more productive.
Thank you.
This concludes the Q&A session. There will now be a 5-minute feedback session.
So, that's what we did last time. Very, very good. Your transitions, your slides, the way you went in and collected the data on the psychological safety, and a number of other factors were really good. I'm trying to think of something constructive to give you. I don't really have much. The one little thing is just the clicking back and forth through slides while you were talking. Maybe your clicker is like real sensitive and it's going, that's the only thing that I can think of. So it was really great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I echo everything Stacia said. I am thrilled that you focused so much of your sort of theoretical backbone around psychological safety. I thought that was a really smart and relevant idea. I also just want to give you kudos for a plan that actually focuses like the work and the labor of this work on the majority as opposed to the minority. I think this is an issue that so many DEI initiatives sort of fall down on, which is that they put a lot of extra work on the people who are already marginalized. And I loved how you started with managers and the folks in the majority as a place to go. I think that was really, really smart and really important. I would also say, yeah, I think you probably had too many slides that you were trying to click through quickly, which made it a little bit, gave me a little sense of like, oh, was I supposed to see that and now I can't see it anymore? So streamlining the slides would probably be helpful here as well. And then the last thing that I would say too is I loved your ideas for the bias incident reporting tool and the DEI climate survey. I would have loved to have seen a plan for like who was gonna own that. Was that gonna live within HR? Does that live somewhere else? I don't know if you all talked about that, but that I think would have been a welcome addition to the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic job. Really appreciated the top-down and bottom-up approach you guys took. Also love how you started off by kind of tethering your recommendations and decision matrix to the purpose-driven strategy and the different domains within that. Thought that was very thoughtful, holistic strategy you guys recommended. That was also kind of supported by some of the implementation recommendations of the KPIs. You set clear goals, you set the roadmap for how they're going to achieve it. And also, I think with your cost benefit analysis too, looking at what the anticipated benefits are. Often our clients question, why should we, it's easy to get that altruistic buy-in, but again, to points that were made, I guess in the previous one, sorry, but sometimes there's the altruistic buy-in, but financially it's expensive. So you guys made the case of here's your anticipated benefits to your bottom line and to your business, to your people, and it made a very compelling argument and business case for why it should be invested in.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would agree. It was a lot of content. It was very well done. But I didn't pick that up till we got maybe halfway through your presentation, right? And so I'm kind of lazy by nature. So I would love to see a summary at the beginning. You started strong. You said we're going to give you 3 recommendations, right? It would have been great if followed by that you said, we did the analysis. This is your cost. This is your benefit, and you're going to realize it over 2 years. Let me walk you through the rest of the story. Right? So I'd love to, if I was an executive sponsor, hear the story at the beginning, so that I don't have to wait 12 minutes to get to, oh, here's the big reveal, right? We've done it at the very beginning. We call it the pyramid principle. That's what we teach our consultants. You show the tip of the pyramid, you reveal the answer, and then the rest of the analysis is underneath. Like, that would be my only recommendation, because you did a lot of work. There was a lot of good outside-in research. You did a lot of financial analysis. I didn't want to wait till the end to see all of that. I would love to see it at the beginning. Give me the story at the beginning. Here's who did it. This is how it happened. And it'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work in preparing for the competition. The winner of the final round will be announced by 3 p.m. Please join us in this room at that time for the awards ceremony. Students presenting, you may now leave the